Men of Reddit, in what ways have you experienced sexism? At my sister's house with my then 14-year-old son. He's a good-looking, tall, handsome young man. Bunch of my sister's 40-something female friends start on about how hot he is, whistling and making comments. He was visibly uncomfortable, so I asked them to stop and got all kinds of crap. I said, can you imagine the heck that would come down if a room full of 40-year-old men were going on about a 14-year-old girl? Disgusting behavior. Not me, but my dad had an extremely hard time getting full custody of me and my little sister despite my mom having no place to live, no job, addicted to drugs, and abused us. All because kids need a mom. A former female co-worker would oftentimes sit around talking about guys she had fricked and once showed me a dong pic that some guy sent her. She thought it was funny. I went to my supervisor and told her it made me uncomfortable and it felt really inappropriate. She basically told me to just ignore her. A couple months later I was fired because that same co-worker accused me of some sort of harassment. I did absolutely nothing to her and they wouldn't tell me what she said I had done. This is why you have to document everything in these situations. Both the behaviors and the reports. The latter should always be done in writing rather than verbally. My girlfriend, at the time, repeatedly hit me, scratched me, ripped my shirt, and ripped the rear view mirror off my car while I was driving. I drove her to her mother's while this was happening. When we got there, she refused to get out. Me and her younger sister, who came out after we got there, both had to physically pull her out of the car. She kept trying to get back in. I finally got her out and locked the doors and drove away. When I got on the highway, 3 cop cars were waiting for me. They charged me with assault, despite the fact that I was visibly battered with red marks, scratches and a ripped shirt, and the inside of my car was trashed. Their justification: her face was red. Yeah, her face was red. She was having a mental breakdown and crying non-stop because I told her I was leaving her. $700 lost because they towed my car. I was also in the middle of applying for our CMP training at this time, had nearly aced the aptitude test, but couldn't continue because of the pending charge. I also missed out on another job that I knew I was going to get when the criminal record check came back with the dismissed assault charge. Being assaulted and laughed at. Time to tell my story. I'm 6 feet 4 inches, 240 pounds and used to work as a bouncer. I tried my best not to be aggressive or anything because I know sometimes alcohol leads people into making stupid decisions. So I'd always approach everyone in a very polite, non-threatening way. Usually that worked because it used to de-escalate things and all. One night, this group of girls was starting to create trouble at the club I used to work. When I came to know what was going on and possibly calm things down like I'd always do, one small intoxicated girl jumped me. She was insane, screaming, cussing, being loud and racist. I'm Latino, she was white. I tried to calm her down, but since that wasn't working, I told her I was gonna escort her out. I reached for my radio and called for backup. She was with a big group, 7-10 girls. Out of nowhere, she started to berate me, trying to scratch my eyes, slashing my neck in the process, trying to kick me in the groin and crap. Other bouncers came and took her off of me. Manager finally showed up. Police was called. When they arrived and collect statements, I came over to them saying I wanted to press changes due to the fact I was bleeding profusely in the neck and hands. They laughed at me, said they won't waste their time. Nothing will come out of it. The girls were let go by the police and went their way laughing at me. I went over to my manager, complaining he was supposed to help us or something. His response? Man up, clean myself up and get back to work. I did clean myself up, patched my injuries and quit on the spot. Frick him. And frick those cops as well. The fact that they even knew they weren't going to get repercussions is even worse. This system is broken. It doesn't affect me because I'm an adult, but in Ireland if 2 underage teenagers hook up only the male is criminally liable. The Supreme Court found that this was acceptable because women are at risk of getting pregnant as a result of underage intercourse, so they shouldn't be liable. It's genuinely the dumbest freaking ruling I've ever read. It doesn't even begin to make sense. It's the worst example of judges inventing a rule to suit their outlook. Odd one. I don't think it is considered sexism, but my male principal has made it very clear that he dislikes only the men at my school. So myself, along with the other 4 or 5 male teachers out of about 32 staff members get awful evaluation scores, and he bullcraps his reasoning why. We think he just wants to pretend to be top dog. Makes it even sadder when even the female staff say things like I can do whatever I want since he likes me. That is literally the definition of sexism. Slight sexism usually gives me a good chuckle. People can't accept the fact that I'm the primary caregiver for our son. Examples. At his pediatrician's office for a checkup. You probably have to ask your wife, but do you know if he can jump stack 4 blocks etc? They will also never call me to confirm appointments or for follow-up calls. They always call my wife's number and leave a voicemail despite us asking several times to contact me first. When out and about with my son. Out with dad today, have that fun. Good luck dad. Cool mom cliques can also be a problem. Not usually overly welcoming, but the worst is passively throwing shade toward my wife. Your wife makes you stay home, huh? Or, your wife decided she would rather work than stay home? On behalf of my dad, who doesn't have Reddit, being a male primary school teacher is a challenge. I have to be more careful about doing things like hugging kids, being alone with them, or even putting up decorations in my room that could obstruct the windows. If I was a female teacher, I wouldn't have to watch my every move in the same way. Honestly, there's really no incentive if you're a man and want to become a teacher at the elementary, junior, or high school level. Too much red tape to begin with, plus all the added crap you'd have to deal with being a male teacher. No thanks. Was refused domestic violence leave by my employer. I'm a really big guy, 6'6", 270 lbs, with a scruffy beard. I work from home and generally have handled a lot of the kid time with our 2 kids. I have had the cops called on me twice, 2 separate incidents, at the playground while playing with my kids. Once because my 2-year-old son did not want to go home and take a nap, so I had to carry a tantruming toddler to the car and someone thought I was kidnapping him even though he was clearly yelling no daddy, no, and having a tantrum. And another time because while playing with my kids on the cool giant playground in the park, I noticed that a little kid, like 18-24 months old, was about to fall off of the top of an 8 feet tall platform, and I ran over and caught the kid, but managed to bang the kid's arm on the side of the structure during the catch, and the kid's mother ran up from her perch on a bench 50 yards away screaming about how I assaulted her son. I also do all the grocery shopping and cooking for my family and used to take my kids to the store with me every week. As such, I've had countless women from teenagers up to old ladies mention how nice it is that I'm babysitting and giving mommy a break. That's kind of infuriating, but whatever. Despite having my kids with me, I've been accused of being a pedophile or kidnapper at least 3 times for trying to help a lost kid find their parents because people think that I must want to frick any child not my own. Being a guy around kids is really fricked sometimes, man. Years ago I was hired at a Denny's to wait tables. I did my week of training, including working a busy shift with my trainer just watching from across the room and keeping the $100 in tips I made. Before training could be finished I had to pass a written test. I took the test, got 80% of the answers right, and was told I had to pass with a 90 or above, but I was told by the female, also gay, manager now that I had failed once I had to pass with 100%. I was told by 3 female servers that they were told they passed the test with lower scores than I had, and one never even had to take it. Everyone who worked there said the GM hated men and that's why she did that. Sorry you experienced that, buddy. I'm shaking my head over someone having a power trip at Denny's. I didn't get a job at a company because the woman who was training me, and I quote, doesn't really like men and refuses to train one. I had signed the contract already and they ripped it up. She was the only one who knew how to do the job, so they had to give her what she wanted. This sounds like a discrimination lawsuit waiting to happen. I had a female manager falsely accuse me of assault and I had no way to defend myself. It was my word against hers. She changed her story 3 times. I proved innocence the first 2 times with emails and people who could overhear the conversation and vouch for me. And the 3rd time it was something totally new. I touched her and physically intimidated her. That I couldn't disprove because she called for a closed door meeting with me and her. She did it because she had not done any work in 6 months and needed to deflect responsibility for this. This, along with a few other things, gave me a lot of anxiety and depression. I cried recalling this experience to my mother, and she told me I was just afraid of strong women. I made a terrible mistake. I was a contributor to Google Maps for a few years before having kids, and it's something I really enjoyed. After having kids, I spent 90% of my free time with them and noticed that there weren't any good images of parks when I was looking for one age appropriate for a 2-year-old. Unwittingly, I think cavernous discretion, what a great opportunity to get some views and maybe earn those socks I keep hearing about. I grab a few wide shots of the entire area and a photo sphere in the middle of the few islands of playground, and they came out great. They were just what I was looking for to help build parks for various age ranges. Naturally, that concept collapsed as soon as the police arrived. Meanwhile, there is some lady there with a telescopic lens taking all the pictures she wants, shaking her head disapprovingly while I try to explain that I'm here with my son. Hobby lost. Parental embarrassment. Poor first exposure to the police for my kid. From a parent's point of view, I understand the optics. But if you really don't want me to have a picture of an entire playground structure that happens to have your kid in it, come talk to me. I'm not a terribly intimidating guy, and I'd gladly delete it if you just talk to me. Calling the cops was a bit much considering how many cameras, smartphones there. The shocking part to me isn't that there's a dumb busybody who called the cops, it's that the cops actually showed up. I guess it's an easy way to avoid working for 30 minutes. The cops in my city won't even show up when the homeless light campfires on the sidewalk next to their tents downtown. When I was abused publicly in a mall by my girlfriend, now ex, no one did anything. I bet if it was the other way around, people would have thrown themselves on me. I have very little access to my kid, even though their mother is a drug addict and uses them as a weapon in arguments. I have shown proof of this many times about how unstable she is, but since she is the mother, she has God-given rights to them. Very sad. I'm a CNA in school to be an RN. The amount of times I get asked to move other people's heavy patients for them is astonishing, and God forbid I say no. I already have bad back pain at age 22. The yard work is a man's job, but the inside work is also my job because expecting a woman to do it is sexist. Just do all the chores. This is exactly the boat I'm in. I do mowing, tree trimming, trash, house projects, cat's litter boxes, etc. All of the back-breaking work that's considered a man's job. When I'm done, all of that counted for nothing, because then I end up having to do all of the cooking, cleaning too. I got kicked out of an underground bar because I was the only man, and they felt it was much better if there wasn't a man present in the bar. Did you come on a ladies' night or some bruh? A teacher told me that she would have given me an A grade for the year if I wasn't male, as she only awarded A grades to girls as they had fewer academic advantages. I think she may have had a few issues. If that were to get out, she would be fired. At least I hope so. The Department for Gender Equality at my job only accepts women to run the department. Ironic. I was at a summer camp with a bunch of other guys. The girls and the guys were in the same dorm, but both sides were closed off by a door that needed a keycard to enter to the other side. The boys were blamed for stealing an iPhone charger, which is literally not possible. On the girls' side, a guy got his mattress put on a wall, like off the frame and put up on the wall, and he was upset about it. We got held back from going to our designated sports time, of course only the guys not the girls, and all for nothing because it was the custodians cleaning after suspensions of bed bugs. Finally, me and 4 other guys were brought into a room and accused of assaulting or harassing girls. I know for fact I did not harass or assault anyone. The camp was a horrible 3-week experience. I work for a company that provides services for people with disabilities. Clients, or their parents, are able to fill in any age or gender preferences they have for providers, and if those preferences are hard or flexible. Age preferences are usually flexible, but a good 3/4 of our clients have a hard preference for female providers only. At one point a few months after I started, I finally had a steady full-time schedule, which takes time to build up. I worked with 5 clients. 3 were female, The field manager at the time for whatever reason called me one day and said he was pulling me off of all female clients because he was no longer going to have male providers working with female clients across the board. No explanation beyond that, but insisted I had done nothing wrong. It was just a change he was making for everyone. This would have effectively cut me down to about 12 hours a week from 40 while trying to rebuild my schedule. Also, he didn't have 3 new male clients for me available the same hours, but he'd work on it, he said. One of my female clients who heard the news said she was just going to drop the company completely if she had to have a different caregiver and called to yell at the manager. This was good since she was higher needs and made up about half my weekly hours. Another one of my female clients worked with a few female providers, kept requesting new ones, and ended up one of my regular clients again within a few months. I ended up outranking that manager anyway by the end of my time with the company, so that worked out well. When I was looking for a job, my friend suggested applying at their store as they were hiring. I went in with my resume and introduced myself to the manager. The next day at school, my friend tells me that her manager is a sexist b. Turns out she found my resume in the bin. When she questioned her manager about it, she told her that they don't hire boys, they distract customers. She found a new job and quit that one out of anger on my behalf. When a new ice cream place was opening in town, I thought I would email my resume. Like the advertisement said, they had no physical location at this point. I never heard anything. No harm done, I was just looking for a second job to fill time. When it opened, I noticed something strange. All of the employees are young girls, like just eligible to get a job, young 15-16 years. I personally wouldn't call this sexist, but at my first job I was the first boy to work there. None of the clients bothered to learn my name and just referred to me as the boy. At my second job, my manager also referred to the boy. The boy to do that, don't worry, I've got a boy to deal with that. My husband's hair has blocked him from promotions because of its length. Women can have any hairstyle they want. Short, long, whatever. My husband has been told more than once he either will not be hired or promoted if he does not cut his hair first. He has had long hair his whole life. That's sexism, emo. Before I went bald, genetics not choice, I was threatened with the sack and been refused jobs because I had shoulder length hair. Yet women had full hair to their waist doing the very same job, and some jobs weren't even customer facing. I had a supervisor who would be a dong to all the guys on our team under the excuse of be a man. Meanwhile, he gave so much slack to the girls on the team to where they almost never had to do much. He needs sacking if you ask me. Still haven't seen a changing table in a public restroom for when I have my kids with me, except for Walmart maybe. If you live in the eastern United States, the grocery store Wegmans stocks their men's rooms with a changing table and a bunch of free baby supplies, diapers, wipes, etc. in case you forgot to bring some. I friggin' love Wegmans. We had a teacher back in high school that was absolutely sexist against men. Even the girls saw it. It was so obvious. Your marks would reflect her biases, that's for sure. She'd treat men like trash and her classes always sucked for us because of it. I had one of these too in high school, but my teacher was a guy. Cut to 10ish years later and he's arrested after touching a student on a field trip. Worked in a school district and for 2 different companies that provide behavior therapy for kids with autism. There's a shocking amount of sexism towards men in that line of field, so I have several offhand comments, jokes about how men are blind to the emotions of others. I tend to play it off as joking, pretend to get all offended, and we usually have a laugh, but it seems like that crap happens like once a month now. An old company policy stated that men weren't allowed to change a kid's diaper and had to get a female manager co-worker to do it for them. WTF. Do you think all men diddle kids in the bathroom? YTF would you even hire men if you assume that? I remember a co-worker was a dad with 2 infant kids, who changed diapers several times a day, not being allowed to change a kid's diaper at work. Myself and a bunch of co-workers thought that was some BS. So we filed a complaint and eventually the policy was changed. Me, the only male in a group of 4 other female teachers' aides, were talking about hair and how thin, dry hair is hard to work with. I agreed with them. I have thin, dry hair, and they asked if I had sisters. I said yeah. Why? And one said, oh, that's why you learned about hair from them. Then they all laughed and changed topics. I didn't say this, but no, Lisa, maybe it's because I have thin, dry hair, you old hag. I complained to my boss about a co-worker who was female and bullying me in various ways. We were professional coaches for a professional team of youth athletes. She had much less experience than me, 15 years compared to 2 years, and she felt that she should have the lead position instead of me. I sensed this and began to cover myself from behind. Went to HR and reported all of the bad stuff she says. Had witnesses. Even youth athletes came forward about her behavior. Direct rule infringement stuff. Like hanging with kids after practice alone. The kind of crap I would be in jail for. I continued to make my boss's boss aware, but later I was fired and found out from a co-worker my boss was not telling his boss cause he knew I would just get fired right away since she and my boss's boss are close friends. I was eventually let go for telling a kid they can't smoke weed in the gym's parking lot and come to practice. The parent didn't like me calling their kid out in front of her friends and complained to my boss's boss, and he let me go. I recently got an email from HR though that the league or organization that runs the competitions banned my co-worker from coaching. Not the gym I worked for, but a national organization, considering suing the crap out of them. I've been attacked, up-head and abused by several women in the past. They often feel entitled to me sexually, and it's at a point where some of them even invite themselves into my home under the premise of being drunk with nowhere to go and practically refuse to leave. My complaints fall on deaf ears, and the expectation is that I've got it good, that these people want me. People seem to neglect the fact that they're freaking terrible to me. Was isolated from a friend group for months when I finally cracked and blocked the one girl, and it's left me afraid that if I do that to any of the others I'll end up entirely alone. I remember back in high school I rejected a girl BC I liked her friend better. She straight up slapped me across the face in school one day in front of a teacher, and the teacher did nothing. Girl I shared one class with my freshman year of high school made up a story that I up-ed her over the summer, a week or two into sophomore year. I was called into office, almost arrested, got my mom, who worked in a law firm at the time, and she brought a couple lawyer friends with her. While waiting I said multiple times I didn't even know the girl, let alone attend any party over the summer. Eventually went to court and showed that it would be impossible as I didn't know about said party, didn't know the girl, didn't have a car, didn't have a license of any kind, and had printed out my entire internet history for the night it allegedly happened. Female judge ruled me innocent, as there was no way I could have done it. Girl then breaks down in court that she did this as a way to get revenge on one of my cousins because my cousin kept getting positions or parts she wanted. Oh man, where to begin? Repeatedly assaulted at work by multiple women. HR. Female, when I told her said she's cute. You really want to make an issue of it? Constantly assaulted in the bar with women grabbing my chest but groin. When you tell people they just shrug. Being stopped and questioned by police security a number of times when my daughter was 1-9 years old. Learned to keep a lot of it on me when we went out. Had a woman physically separate me and my daughter, 6 at the time, when I took her to the playground screaming that I was a predator. Took a mother that I knew to tell the woman off just before I had to decide whether or not to physically take my daughter back. I would never let someone separate my daughter from me. There are very few things that will make me go ballistic and assault someone, but taking my child buys you a major butt whipping. Literally got kicked out of the gender equality club at my school for being a white male because of course that means I have much better chances in life than anyone else and can't advocate complete gender equality. I feel like this probably saved you in the long run. When I opened up and told someone I was depressed, they said man up. While my depressed female friend also opened up, but that person actually talked to her about it. This may be the worst of men being men. Man says I need help, friend says man up. That's not right, and we have to hold each other accountable. Sorry you didn't have someone there to support you. I took a children's lit class. I was literally the only boy, and the try-hard grad student really made sure to make an example out of me like every chance she got. On my kid's daycare. My kid on daycare came up with a fever and he was throwing up. They called my wife but I was closer and was able to leave everything and go. When I'm on the front desk to pick up my sick kid they put up a fight. This is a mommy situation and we would feel better if she picks him up. I literally yelled to the nurse to give me my kid. I think I got a bad reputation for that. I work in childcare. I've worked in multiple daycares and preschools. Lots of parents that I meet are really apprehensive of me because why would they want a male taking care of their kid? Some of the kids I meet are even scared of me at first. And mind you, I'm not a threatening looking person. I'm 5'8", 130 pounds soaking wet with blonde hair and blue eyes. But some kids, usually girls, still cry when they see me because they're so used to having women take care of them and I'm different from them. After parents get to know me and they see I can change diapers, feed snacks, clean up, and engage a room of 15 plus 2-year-olds better than the majority of my co-workers, they warm up to me. But those first few meetings can be a little awkward, and it's only going to get worse as I get older and I'm no longer young and attractive. Worked at a well-known car rental place. The manager had all the guys washing the cars, doing the pickups, and the grunt work while the females did whatever they wanted. Problem was everything was scored and determined your ability to get promotions. After a couple of brutal weeks I brought this up to him when I was getting reprimanded for my bad scores and his reply was they are dressed nicer so they shouldn't have to wash cars and I should take advantage of every at bat. I transferred to another manager's shop the next month. Can't volunteer for anything regarding children. I did that when I was younger but as I was getting older I noticed people giving me dirty looks and parents complaining. Ultimately, I just stopped volunteering with anything regarding children, it's not worth the headache. Recently volunteered to go on my 2nd grade daughter's field trip as a chaperone. Had to fill out paperwork for a complete background check. Mentioned it to one of the moms going and she said she didn't have to get a background check. Turns out none of the 6 women were required to get a background but me and one other dad had to get one. SMH total BS. You have been visited by the romantic doggo. Comment love is magic so you never fall in the friend zone. Like and subscribe you magnificent person.